All right, so there you are, extolling the virtues of vaping and the British approach to vaping over there in the States, while at the same time, a YouGov poll has given Labour a 33-point lead over the Tories. And I wonder what you would like to say about that and just how much consternation it's causing in your troubled breast, and whether you want to cut short your trip and come back and see whether you've got to face the music somehow in Windsor.
Well, look, we all have a role to play in Parliament, and we all have a role to play in our parties. And if I would say this, is that the measures that we introduced, the measures that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor introduced, they're not short-term measures. These are structural measures to make sure that we get growth back in the United Kingdom. So look, tomorrow morning, we're not going to see a huge difference. Maybe even 6 months, not a huge difference. But in a year or 2 years down the road, people will begin to wonder, why is the UK growth rate higher than the European average, higher than the world average for other countries that are not taking the approach to say, listen, let people keep more of their money so they can invest it where they need to, so that jobs are created and economic growth ensues.
Can you explain to people why it makes sense when there are people, families, old people, pensioners, living in fear of switching the kettle on to make a cup of tea? And we've spoken to them on the programme. I'm not just making them up. I don't need to invent them. There are far too many of them for me to need to do anything of the sort. I wouldn't dream of it anyway. People who are scared to turn the kettle on. People who won't be turning the heating on, even though it's got really cold here at night time. People who are cutting back on food, cutting back on the number of meals that they eat. Those people. So people who really are on the breadline, on the knife edge, not just worried, but with excellent reason for real anxiety. And it's decided by the government that the right thing to do is cut tax, which will benefit enormously those very rich people who aren't even concerned about heating or eating. They're busy on holiday and having a great time. Money is no object because they've got lots of it. Why would it be that the government decides to help those people, not the people in abject need right now?
Well, that's not the policy, is it? The policy is to basically ensure we get economic growth. Let me put it this way. I will make a prediction, okay? You can hold me to this in 12 months' time. Okay. I will predict that the amount of tax raised from the most wealthy in society into the exchequer will increase. It won't go down. So the benefit to everyone who's concerned about their resources, about their jobs and about their livelihoods is that we will see economic growth, and the tax burden on everyone else will reduce because more tax is coming in from the wealthier in society. And not only that...
Hang on, sorry, I just don't understand. Why will the amount coming in increase if there's a tax cut? Well, how can it possibly increase?
Well, this is the problem, because basically common logic says if you reduce the tax rate, you get less tax.
Yes.
The truth is, when we cut the 60% rate back in the 80s, we got more tax in. When we cut the rate, cut the rate on all previous occasions, more tax comes in from wealthier people because they choose to do things differently, because they see it in their interests to basically earn more money and not to restrict their earnings and not to restrict their investments. So the answer is, and this is why I say hold me to it, in 12 months' time, I'm really happy to come back on, and I'll guarantee you that in the higher rate tax bracket, the exchequer will have got more money, and therefore we may even be able to reduce taxes on the least well off even further.
How is it possible to be so gung-ho and so convinced that this mini budget is going in the right direction, is doing the right thing, when the Bank of England has had to step in to rescue pensions to the value of £65 billion? And if the Bank of England hadn't stepped in, all hell would have broken loose. Pensions would have fallen through the floor. So how can it be the right thing and you be defending it in a very calm, I must admit, and very eloquent manner, when quite patently it set the world spinning on its axis in the most terrifying way?
Well, actually, I think, again, we need to be a bit careful there, because the UK is not suffering any more than any other nation right now. In fact, I think the pound has reduced less than most other European currencies during this period. And there's a very big difference between what happens today, what the headlines are today and this week and or even this month, and what the longer term consequences are. And it is worrying. I'm not denying it. I have constituents, I talk to them all the time. Of course it's worrying, but I suspect that in a few months' time we'll begin to see the differentials between the United Kingdom and other countries that are not taking these actions in terms of the economic growth, and also in terms of the reducing tax burden on people. It's no good that people are earning sort of £15,000, £20,000 or paying vast amounts of tax. We need to reduce the tax at that lower level, and by reducing it at the higher level, getting the economic activity, getting more taxation into the coffers, we'll be able to continue to reduce it at that lower level, and that's what I want,
And so you would say, with unalloyed enthusiasm, that the Chancellor and the Prime Minister's strategy is effective, it will work, and it will bring about exactly the change they're seeking to bring about.
Well, one can't absolutely predict the future, but one thing is absolutely certain. By reducing higher rate taxation, by incentivising investment, so if people write cheques into UK businesses, they can make a bigger return. Therefore, we see greater employment, greater tax take. And so, yes, I am confident in the long term. But the question is, and I will concede this, is in many ways we should have done this several years ago. That's my view, because in the next year or two before an election, it's hard to see that Laffer curve giving the results in that very short term. We'll see some differences in growth, but I'm not sure we'll see the full differences in the tax take. And that upsets, to be honest with you, that upsets me. It's the first kind of proper Conservative budget I've seen in a very long time. It will work.
And what do you mean by the phrase proper Conservative budget? What is that? What is that?
What that is it acknowledges the world as it is. If you reduce tax rates on wealthier people, they will spend more money, invest more money, and undertake greater economic activity, therefore reducing the burden on everyone else. That is the reality of the world. And even though, and I know the frame you've just given it, Vanessa, the framing is, oh, tax cuts for wealthy people, you evil Tories. It's just not the situation. My heart bleeds. I come from a really tough background. My heart bleeds for the least well-off and the least able. The only way we can get the support to them, the only way we can reduce that tax burden and even increase some of the benefits where necessary is by ensuring that those who are able in society are investing and feel comfortable in paying the level of tax that's due to them.
And I'm afraid, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Good evening.